Welcome to the Echoes of Elegance by VINTQ, where we explore stories behind remarkable objects, uncover forgotten craftsmanship, and discover how treasures and pieces carry memories across generations. So today with us, we're joined by John Block. He's a Chief Operating Officer at Park West Gallery, the world's largest art dealer. With nearly 25 years in the art industry, John has helped connect millions of collectors with artworks ranging from historical masters to contemporary icons. Through collecting, education, and discovery, he has spent decades helping people find not just art, but meaningful stories and lasting memories. So, John, welcome to Echoes of Elegance.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. We talked very briefly before about the relationship that you have built. Obviously, and your bio does reflect that, with your customers, and those customers become lifelong friends, right? But taking you back 25 years before, you spent, 25 plus years in the art world. So can you take us back? What first drew you into it?
Well, like a lot of people, I wish the story had a little bit more, let's call it intellectual protein. But the truth is, I met a girl, I fell in love, and she was an artist. And though I was studying business, I was spending an awful lot of time in the art department at night helping her. She was actually a printmaker. And I got kind of good at creating prints with her because I was acting as her assistant, and it came easily for me. I never thought, and people ask me this a lot of the time. I never thought I myself could be a living and working artist, living in the art world and working and paying my bills in that way. I don't think I was at that level. And of course, those things have changed over the last 3 decades, but what it takes to be at that level. But I knew that I loved it and I wanted to be involved in it. And the real hook for me was that I was so interested in history, American history, world history. But of course, art history was just such an appealing topic for me, something so exciting to kind of learn. It felt like, I don't know, like getting the inside edition type story about the history of the world.
Wow, that's fantastic. So what was the like? I mean, you mentioned you started to work on prints with your girlfriend. So that was her idea. So she kind of led you in the arts of in the world of arts, or have you had any prior interest before that?
I had interest, and like I certainly was the type of person who could spend an afternoon in a gallery or a museum, and I had interest in it. But what really excited me was once I saw kind of the craftsmanship that goes into creating. For her, it was paintings and drawings and specifically etchings. And that was like something that was so perplexing to me because I had looked at and encountered the art, but I hadn't really thought about, how this is made. And in those days, if you wanted to learn something like that outside of a classroom, you had no choice but to just read books, right? There was no, now, of course, you can go online and with YouTube, you can see any process that you'd like to see. But in those days, it was, you had to really take a scholarly approach. And that really sparked my interest.
That's amazing. So, as you know, again, many collectors can remember the first pieces that truly captivated them, right? We always come across that first piece, which is just out of this world, and it's stuck with us maybe for 25, 30 years, and we can recall it and, the emotions that attach to it. Do you remember yours?
I do remember mine, but it's an artist that no one would likely know. It was a regional artist, someone who's really famous in the state where I grew up. I grew up in a small town in Iowa in the United States. And in my small town, there was an artist by the name of David Delafield. And David Delafield did these just remarkable realist paintings. I had volunteered at a local theater and like a community theater type place. And he did this magnificent painting of the theater completely filled with patrons watching a show. And I remember looking at it and just thinking, every single facial expression, there's 600 faces in this painting, and every single person was experiencing the show just like they did in real life. And I thought, how has he taken that and put it on this flat, piece of canvas, this piece of fabric, and made it come completely to life so that, when you're sitting in a theater waiting for a show to begin, there's a palpable energy. And David Delafield was able to take that and just put it on the canvas. And for me, it sent electricity through my body. I just couldn't believe that he was able to do that on a flat surface to make me feel like I was in a room with other people. I could hear the orchestra tuning. I could hear the mutter of the crowd of people talking to each other, the programs being shuffled around, and that experience for me really was what like clinched it. I have got to learn more. I've got to experience the art world.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful personal experience. In terms of the customer experience, let's say somebody comes across your company, right? Maybe you can explain, as a professional in the field working for 25 plus years, what do you think people misunderstand most about the world of art and collecting?
I think that people overcomplicate it, to be very frank with you. Of course, there is room for complex scenarios in the art world, but in reality, for most people, for the average collector, it's very basic. The artwork either appeals to you or it does not. I wish I was a wine connoisseur. I really like wine, but I'm not a wine connoisseur. I don't know anything. And I've been to all the wine tastings you can do in Napa, and believe me, they're wonderful. But what I love about them, again, it's like art. I love to hear the person give the presentation. And so when I walk in and the person doing the wine tasting says, "You've heard all this before." No, no, I want you to teach me. And I had this brilliant winemaker who was selling it was a single bottle was like $5,000. And we went and listened to her presentation. And she said something that I use now when I talk with collectors about art. She said, with wine, don't overcomplicate it. It's yum or it's yuck. And if you think about it in fine art, at least from the collector's perspective, I'm not talking about investing in art at this point. I'm not talking about any of the market. That's a whole different conversation. But from a collector's perspective, it's yum or it's yuck. It either appeals to you or repels you, and you know that. And very often you can't change it. One of the things I like about Salvador Dali's art, and I'm not a big fan of Dali, but what I love is that people have this visceral reaction to Dali, and they either just hate it or for some reason they love it. And it can be like, you've got like a math teacher from sixth grade collecting this Dali that has these just awful, profane things happening in it. But for some reason, it like appeals to this person who you would never think would be a match for that type of artwork. I love it. So I like to say it's yum or it's yuck. It's something that appeals to you. And like I said about that Delafield, like sends electric shock through your body or it doesn't. And I don't know that it's much more complex than that from the collector's standpoint. Obviously, the business of art is an entirely different deal.
Mhm. So maybe you can touch some of the business on investing, because maybe some part of this audience is, they have maybe a personal choice, personal taste when it comes to art, but maybe primarily why they're looking to explore art is through the lens of investment. So how would you advise those people when, again, maybe they have, limited or in some cases unlimited amount of capital to invest in art? What will be the first steps that you advise those people if they haven't explored and they're kind of brand new to this industry, to this specific field?
Well, my best advice is probably advice that they won't want to hear in that case, because my advice is I don't think art is a great investment most of the time. For most people, for most pieces, for most artists and most markets, there's much easier ways to invest and make money than the art world. I think that almost everyone I've ever met who is an art world investor, almost everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone I've ever met, it's a passion for them first. It's kind of like people who invest in Broadway. Nobody really thinks they're going to make money. They're in it because they have no choice but to be in it because they love it. And I think that's often the time, the experience that people have in collecting fine art as well. It's very difficult to give advice because you can account for all the variables, and the one a variable you can't account for is the one that will impact your piece going up or your piece going down. I'm not an expert in investing in art. What we primarily do as a dealer is we're dealing mostly with introducing people to the world of art for the very first time. Many of our collectors would never be comfortable with a Sotheby's or Christie's auction. That wouldn't really be the right sort of foray into the world of art for them. So we're introducing people for the first time. Generally, our biggest part of our business is in emerging artists. So art that you buy because of how it makes you feel, to adorn the walls of your home, to commemorate an experience in your life. That's really where our focus is. Now, we do sell masterworks, and even with the masterworks, we really encourage people to collect for the history, for the story, how it makes them feel, to kind of be a guardian, a caretaker of those pieces for the next generation. I wish that I could give you great investment advice, but frankly, if I was good at that, I don't know that I would have time to do the podcast, because I think that I would spend all my time doing it. I know this for sure. If you buy art because you love it, if it speaks to you, if it sings to you, you never regret it a day in your life. And so that's the kind of advice I would give anyone. And I think, in my humble opinion, I think that's the only great professional advice on investing. And my concern is, usually when people give advice on investing art, like when I walk into a gallery and someone wants to give me advice, it's almost always incredibly biased for the purpose of getting me to spend money. And so I don't want to be that guy.
I appreciate the honesty. And obviously, if you say if somebody buys based on emotion or on their personal appeal, if I bought a piece of art, in my eyes, that piece of art goes up in value every year just because I love it.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. So what about, because again, you mentioned stories, right? Because there's tremendous stories, I mean, that could be carried through the generations that comes through some of the pieces, again, that you're dealing with. So maybe you can talk about some of the most fascinating story that you heard behind some of those pieces that came through Park West.
Yeah, I was trying to think about what a good story would be for, people always want to hear about the treasure hunt, right? Like us going out and finding the collection or finding the piece. And so I've got a good one that happened recently that I'll share with you. The uh, When Pablo Picasso died, he didn't have a will, and it was a disaster. And there's been a lot written about it, and each of the kids and now each of the grandkids, they've written books, and some of them are really damning accounts, and some of them are a little bit more rosy, more protect the family brand accounts. And I wouldn't want to profess to know which one is accurate. Like in most things, probably somewhere in the middle is what is accurate. But his granddaughter, the daughter of his only quote legitimate son. By the way, I don't embrace that. I'm just saying in those days that's how he was referenced. So his son Paulo had a daughter. Her name is Marina, and she's living today. She's 71, I think, or so. Lives in Geneva. Or in Switzerland. I don't know if it's Geneva, but anyway, she worked with famed master chromist Marcel Salinas, who was a collaborator with Picasso. She worked with him, and the paintings that she actually ended up inheriting from her grandfather, her birthright, she had them translated into these beautiful lithographs. I mean, full color, just rich, velvety tones. They were, really the talk of the art world at the time. This collection was never really marketed or released en masse. And by the way, they're signed by her, of course, because he had passed away at that time. So they're authenticated with the signature Collection Marina Picasso. They've got the stamp of the estate and all the stuff so that you know that it's real. They're real. But anyway, this collection was squirreled away by a series of art investors, of art dealers that thought they'd buy it, sit on it, and sell it decades later. So this happens in the 70s and 80s. And we had heard about it. I guess the first time we heard about it was in about 2015, was when we became aware that somebody had the collection. So I flew to Switzerland because it would make sense that that's where it would end up. And frankly, not just because she happens to live there, but there's a lot of art that's held in these tax-free, sort of facilities and security facilities in Switzerland. So I flew over there and I tried to make deals to figure out where the collection was. And I'm based about half the time in New York City. So I go over there. I've made multiple trips. Then I had to go and meet with a guy in London who had a lead on the collection. I just thought it would be perfect. What am I about? I'm about introducing people to the world of art for the first time. What name is bigger than Picasso? There isn't one, really. And so, what would bring more people to the art world than having, literally per image hundreds, but overall thousands of these beautiful treasures from Picasso's legacy to be able to offer to people? So in my head and in the head of Park West founder, this was a no-brainer. We needed to find this art. We needed to acquire it. So I'm making all these trips to Europe and back. I'm really getting nowhere. There was a guy in California who I thought was going to be my lead because he had some of the pieces available online. So I flew to Los Angeles and met with the guy. I bought up all the ones he had. Anyway, Uh, to make a long story short, I get a phone call in late July of 2025, 2024. I get this phone call, and someone says to me, I found them, and they're in Long Island City. And so I had traveled the world trying to find these pieces, and they were 6 miles from my front door. So I get in a car, I head out to Long Island City. We had a deal almost immediately, and we bought the collection en masse, and we get to offer it to the world. So within a few months, you got to go through all the paperwork process and then making sure they're legal and all the things that you have to do. We put them out to our galleries, and so we are primarily an auction-based business. We're doing several thousand auctions every month all around the world, and we put them out, and it was just incredible. The set paid for itself really in the first few months, and people they're just being gobbled up by audiences the world over. So there's over 300 individual images. We've only released, I bet we've released 25 of them or something at this point, and it's just become a huge hit. But it's funny. Sometimes you scour the entire globe looking for something that's in your own backyard, which is crazy.
That's an unbelievable story. I mean, literally, the pieces sometimes that you're looking for could be at your doorstep. That's kind of the message, and yeah, you just never know. You just never know. I
That's
mean,
it.
and it's probably sometimes there's a sheer of luck, coincidence, universe just works in your favor. And again, obviously, I heard the quote before: the harder you work, the luckier you get. So obviously, you
So
traveled the
true.
world. I'm sure you made some great connections along the way that pay you dividends today still. Um,
That's
you
it.
know, and you made the deal. So congratulations.
Yeah, I ended up with a Matisse deal out of it, meeting a person in France looking for this set, and ended up with really what I think will be a lifelong long partnership with this person that I met in Long Island City. And it's just crazy. I spent 10 years digging for something, and then what it really took was an $18 taxi ride, which is just hilarious. But
That
anyway,
is really
that's one of the good ones from recently, and I think you're so right. It's true in everything that the harder you work, the luckier you get, or hard work makes luck, or there's so many different ways to say it. But certainly that's true when it comes to finding that collectible, that art piece that is just going to really that maybe complete your collection or enhance your collection. It does come down to you have to be willing to put some time and energy into it. Obviously, it costs money, but everything in the world costs money for the most part. The kind of the other factors are often the most important. Are you willing to devote yourself to finding the thing over a period of time? And also, are you putting yourself out in the world, making yourself available? The guy who called me to tell me that this was just in LIC, just so close to me, that person knew about it because I had lunch with him in London and said, "This is what I'm after. I'm gonna find it." And he laughed at me at the time, and then he ended up being the key to bringing me together with the collection, which is just amazing.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful story. And obviously, for the new people now, when it comes to finding their own piece, they don't have to go that far. All they have to do is go to the Park West Gallery, right?
That's it. Yeah, we do wonderful online auctions every weekend that are free. There's no barrier to entry. You don't have to, there's auctions where you have to do a credit check, you have to register a black card. There's all kinds of different versions of that. Ours are intentionally super available to anyone. And at those auctions, you'll see pieces that are $100, and you're going to see pieces that are, 8, 10, 12 million dollars, and that's every single weekend. And so we have that. Then we also offer art through our cruise ships worldwide. We have 115 galleries on cruise ships, luxury cruise liners all around the world. And we have galleries in Las Vegas, New York, Detroit, Miami, and Honolulu. So we try to make ourselves everywhere people want to go on vacation, because that's often when people will decide they want to collect something. But our home office is in Southfield, Michigan. We have a nearly 70,000 square foot free museum there that we built for the public. It has original Renoir paintings in it, remarkable Picasso uniques. I mean, it's a gorgeous facility, and it's completely free to the public 7 days a week. So we have that, and then we have our world headquarters there and in Miami. So we hope that people will check out Park West Gallery, but wherever you collect, we are about building the world of art. So I'm not the type of person who goes, "Oh, if you collect at your corner gallery, that I'm upset because I didn't get the business." We have the luxury of being a huge company that operates all around the world, and none of it could happen without the corner gallery. None of it could happen without the individual people who are out there scouring the globe, finding these treasures of human history. and making them available to the public. That's all those people are very important to us. So whether you collect from us or someone else, collect. Enter this beautiful world that has become our life's work and the passion of our lives. People ask me all the time, like, how do you get the energy for this? The energy for this comes for free because it's the most amazing experience in the world is taking something, plucking it from history, and getting to be the caretaker of it for the next generation. My goodness, I can't imagine a better thing to do with your life.
No, I see the excitement that comes, right from your face. I mean, and obviously I've been doing this for 25 years, and I'm sure again, you're making a lot of people excited too. I mean, because some of the pieces, again, they're describing the stories, finding Pablo Picasso pieces, the etchings, right? I mean, putting in that work and that becomes also part of the story, right? So, I mean, it's just incredible. But something also that you mentioned a few times, I think that the audience probably would like to hear is the cruise ships. You mentioned, I mean, you're over 100 cruise ships, right? 150? What did you say the correct number is?
115 at the moment, but we're always adding more. The cruise line industry is booming, so you can imagine.
That's a very interesting approach. I mean, so what is the approach? Obviously, as I would understand, you in terms of the position where it is located in a cruise ship. So probably you want to be as close to the personal room and within the proximity of the bar, somewhere in between, right? They can visit your store on the way, maybe to bed or to the bar, right? So how do you position? I mean, with that, where this idea came from, and how, in terms of the sales, obviously, maybe we don't want to talk about the exact numbers, so maybe you want to talk about that. Like, what impact does it do for you in terms of business being on all those cruise ships?
Well, it's unbelievable. We think we have the best mousetrap in the world as it relates to getting people into the art world because we bring them on board the ship. And you're right, oftentimes we're positioned near the bar. I wonder if that's a reflection of where business is good or if they just know me well enough to know I don't like to be far away from the next glass of wine. But anyway, they put us in these wonderful cruise ships. People go there, they are at sea, and when you're at sea, maybe something that you wouldn't make time for in your normal life, you'll make time for when you have this time to kill, right? And so people come to our art auctions. We do a lot of education, a lot of seminars, a lot of teaching people about the art world with no sales motive. We're obviously having them do, like we do a seminar called 30,000 Years of Art History in 30 Minutes. We have them teach about, going back to like cave paintings. We're not selling cave paintings, right? There's no sales motivation there, but it's about, we find that the best collectors, the most loyal collectors, frankly, the collectors that spend the most and stay with us over the longest period of time are the informed collectors. So we like to really start with like treating it like a 100 level course, and then on the second C day we do a 200 level course, and so on and so forth. And then they may come to the auction that cruise, or they may not. They may wait till the next cruise and come by the auction. And maybe if they come to the auction, they're not there to collect. They're just going to we give away free art at every auction for attending. So maybe they're just coming and they're going to get just the free art that time. But what we discovered was over a period of a decade, people who come to us and their first interaction resulted in us shipping them a free artwork. So they didn't spend any money. We found that those people came back and spent not just millions of dollars over a 10-year period, they spent tens of millions of dollars with us over a 10-year period. So it's a wonderful way to go out to the general public and scoop up people and find the ones who are interested in art. And so we do that 365 days a year, okay, on cruise ships all around the world, 115 cruise ships. We have sold art now to more than 3.5 million people, which we think, we're not sure because these records aren't public for other people, but we think that makes us the largest dealer of art in the history of the world. And so it's pretty exciting to think about that. And it all came through cruise ships. And so you can imagine why I have 4,000 people at my weekend auctions. They sign up for it because we have 3 million people out there that had a good experience with us that would like to see what we're up to and see what the hot deals are for the weekend. And so we do that. We do on land private events for our VIP collectors. We do about 100 of those. So every week there's a couple of those going on. Those are in Four Seasons resorts and Ritz-Carlton resorts. And so again, super accessible. We bring them in, we pay for everything for the weekend. We have some great entertainment and food and drink, and then we do private auctions for them. The secret sauce for us, though, is really this one thing. we take our living artists, our contemporary artists that are most popular, and we bring them to the events. And they get to go on vacation on the cruise ships with the collectors. They get to go on vacation at Four Seasons and Ritz-Carlton with the collectors. And that seems to be our special sauce that makes us different than everyone else because by doing that, people bond with the artists on just a level that is beyond anything you could do with a great website or a great interview or a great anything. All the multimedia things, nothing quite works the same as belly to belly, sitting for a coffee, sitting for a beer, and saying to the artist, "What is it that makes you tick?" Once that happens, people collect and collect and collect, and it's a wonderful thing.
That's unbelievable. I mean, congratulations. I mean, those are big numbers, 300 plus, 3 million plus people that, I mean, you're serving through cruise ships alone, that number is growing. So it's unbelievable. I mean, staggering numbers. So I'm just thinking also about the audience through the years, because when people maybe come across for the first time in terms of arts and collecting, they maybe think about an older demographic. What have you seen throughout those 25 years, and maybe in the last 5 or 10 years? Have you seen any demographic change in terms of the age group? Do you see more of a younger audience coming in and becoming more interested into arts, or that demographic is kind of still staying the same as 20 years ago?
No, it's much different. And in fact, to be frank with you, pre-COVID, I would have said that the real basis of our business would be boomers, right? Would be people in that 70, 80s kind of age range. That's where the real dollars were coming from. Maybe not the volume, right? So some of the less expensive pieces were going to much younger people, but the real dollars were coming through the boomers. But the thing that's happened post-COVID is that I think there's been a realignment of what people want to spend their money on. And I think that even younger people, everybody wants, what is it, 35 to 54-year-old females. That's like the demographic that buys all the retail stuff in the world. And by the way, if I have that age range wrong, nobody be mad at me. I'm doing that off the top of my head. I know it's somewhere in there. I don't consider us part of the retail world, but I know that they're all focused on those people. But what we've seen is these people that are much younger are now spending their money on things that bring them joy, where before they may not have been as focused on that. I think COVID caused a realignment of where people are willing to put their dollars. We saw it in the snapback, right? We saw it in the economy when people, the pent up, what do they call it, revenge spending or something? And so we saw that right away after COVID. But what we've also seen is that it stayed true. So I bet, I haven't run data on this, but if I were to just give you, just kind of handicapping it, I'd bet that our average age of a collector spending more than, let's say, $25,000, I bet it's dropped in half in the last 6 years. So I think that's great for the art world. It could also be because the cruise line industry, obviously, they're a major feeder for our brand. It's possible that they've decided to market younger as well. Because if you think about cruise ships sort of traditionally, you think about people that are on their retirement cruise. I don't think that's the world we live in anymore. It's a lot more for young, active families and young professionals, that kind of vibe, than it is for the older people. Obviously, they're still welcome, but but I think they've focused their marketing and their efforts on making it new and big and shiny, kind of like Vegas on the sea, as opposed to the retirement home kind of. So both of those things, I think, COVID, I think, had a big impact, and I think the cruise line industry's refocusing had a big impact on us as well.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, very interesting. So maybe coming back to the point where you talked about the COVID, so the lockdown, and people had more time to, sit at home, reflect on life generally. Maybe some of the people went into passions, which could be arts, right? So we've seen throughout social media, a lot of new artists came up. It could be brand new. Some of the people maybe they've been working on and having to utilize social media. Maybe that was a good time, again, as for your business, to go online and, to be in front of the people a little bit more, kind of leverage those venues. And now, again, because of those people, there is this new demographic, as we're talking about, newer, younger people that are coming in, they're exploring the world of arts. Maybe you can help them, again, as we talked about, the personal choices. I mean, it comes down to that. The personal choice, personal taste when it comes to buying art, right? But Can you help them maybe to distinguish when it comes to, we talked about Picasso, right? Between lasting artistic significance and temporary market trends. I mean, how would you
Mm.
approach that, the conversation with individual? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, the struggle for so many artists who want to have a lasting legacy is that how do you create art that is timeless? How do you create art that would have connected with our parents and will connect with our children? And I think that's a struggle for every single art, or at least it's something they have to grapple with, every single artist. And I think that's for collectors as well. Generally speaking, um, political art of the moment doesn't tend to have lasting impact. However, if you take Picasso, I didn't mean to make this interview about Picasso, but why not? If you take Picasso, Guernica as an example, would be an example of political art of the moment that would end up being one of the real watershed pieces for him for his entire career. Most people would say among the most important things he ever did. So it's difficult to know really how to tune that in. I would say, I see artists, and a lot of times in New York City in the galleries, we'll see artists that are doing art about Twitter or art about Instagram or whatever. I don't know this because I don't have a crystal ball any more than anybody else does, but I would be surprised if the conversation about Twitter versus X or the conversation about, the Secretary of State or one of those things, I'd be really surprised if that has a lot of lasting significance in 300 years. It's not for me to say, but that would be surprising to me. So I guess I would steer clear of that kind of thing if what you're interested in is a timeless piece. But I think there are certain subjects that tend to transcend and
Mm.
and sort of last forever. So romance and beauty and love and the transience of the material world. Those, if you were to like summarize many of the great works of art in history, the works that you pay money to go and see, generally they'll have those types of subject matter. And so instead of focusing on the material world itself, they're focusing on the transience of the material world, meaning maybe I have everything and yet I'm still looking for something. Those kinds of human struggles that every generation of human has had to deal with for all time, those things are generally timeless and they seem to be what stands the test of time, at least to date. But again, how do we know? Maybe there'll be such a cultural significance to, I don't know, I'm thinking on Elon Musk, but maybe Starlink or Tesla will have such cultural significance that one day we'll be revering them the way that we revere Guernica. I just don't know. So if you want to play it safe, I think if you really focus on art that addresses the human condition, I think those types of pieces are most likely, based on what we've seen in art history, to stand the test of time.
That's perfect. That's a great advice. So also, could you give an advice? We talked about travel, and again, you mentioned that you always like to visit galleries, museums, right? Just for the personal sake of broadening your perspective, being exposed to what is out there in terms of arts, right? Because of the changing demographic and the new interests of people, there are younger audiences. What will be your advice when it comes to that? Being educated, understanding, the differences between taste, eras, artists themselves. What would you recommend visiting galleries, museums, flea markets, antique shops, or somewhere maybe unexpected?
Can I just tell you that my answer to that would be yes. Visiting antique shops, visiting art fairs, antique fairs, those sorts of gatherings, that it has two things. Maybe you're going to find something there that you want to have in your collection. That's kind of like the secondary goal of visiting one of these places, connecting to that network and that sort of collective of people who are like-minded and who are interested in these sorts of things. That's the primary goal in attending these events. They said about Andy Warhol, there's all these great openings in New York all the time. Every Thursday night, there's great openings. There's an art walk in Chelsea that's just like, it's always good. I don't think I've only bought one piece there ever in one of these art walks, but that's not what I'm going for. I'm going to see the latest trends. I'm going to connect with the artists. I'm going more so to connect with that community and to be dialed into that community, because you learn things in any profession that you're in. You learn by doing things, but you also learn by developing a community around you and learning from other people and their experiences. So that's really, I think, the mission of attending these things, more so than just, oh, I want to go there and make a purchase. I've got money burning a hole in my pocket. most people, that's not what they go for. It's about being part of that community. And it's fun to do that in antiquing. It's certainly fun to do that in every type of collectible. For instance, I have a friend who collects coins, and I don't collect coins. And when I think about collecting coins, I feel like, you know, that's something that like my uncle did, and like I think of it like for his generation. My buddy who does it, by the way, he's my same age, maybe 5 years older or something, but my essentially my same age. And I went with him to a coin show. And I just have to tell you, I met the most interesting people. Like I could not believe the number of people I met who I exchanged information with and stayed in touch with now for like 4 or 5 years out of this coin show. And I didn't even have interest in coin at that time. And now I have to tell you, I love to watch a coin auction online. I still haven't become an actual collector, but it's so cool. And the people involved in it, it is like religion for them. Like they know everything and they're so interesting. And I think you get that in any collectible market, any collectible genre. You get these people who are so passionate. They're just on fire for these coins. I mean, my friend, I used to tease him about it. And now, after I met all these people and I see what he's a part of, it's like, yeah, when I retire, I'm going to do that. Because, I've been so focused on fine art for so long. Like, I want to find something else that I think I could, like, really, like, sink my teeth into. And the people I met, it was a San Diego thing. And the people I met there, I was just like, this might be the most interesting group of people ever assembled in one place. And he said, that show was boring. Some of these shows are, like, even better. So I'm going to do some of that in the future.
That's very cool. Very cool. Interesting. Are you for a quick fire round for some 10 questions?
I'll try. I'm on my first coffee. I'm in Alaska today visiting, and so it's really early here, but I'm going to do my best.
So, look, what will be the one artist you wish you could have dinner with?
Wow. Oh, come on. You did that in a rapid fire? I want to be able to think through that answer. Let's see. I think it would be, wow. Man, oh man, oh man.
So
I'm
many to
going to
choose
do it
from.
because okay, sorry. He just passed away, and he's a friend of a friend. I never got to meet him, but I would have loved to spend some time with Hockney. What an incredible, like, change the world, change the whole focus of art. I would have really enjoyed some time with David Hockney.
Beautiful. One artwork you love hanging in your home tomorrow.
Mm. I have a Salvador Dali of Abraham Lincoln, which is a really incredible artwork. And like I said, I like Dali. I'm not like the biggest Dali guy in the world, but I like surrealism, and this Abraham Lincoln piece really spoke to me.
Perfect. Well, we're kind of going to know the answer to the next question, but museum or auction house?
Oh gosh, I'm supposed to say auction house, right? But I spend my whole, like every free moment I have, I like to go walk around museums. But I do love there's nothing better than the energy of an auction. And sometimes you get a good deal, and sometimes you get a really profoundly terrible deal by bidding in an auction because emotions and energy and all sorts of things play into what happens in an auction house. But it is also a great drama. It is just so exciting to be there in the room, as they say, in the room where it's happening. And Sotheby's or Christie's auction on a weekend night is, I don't know if there's something better.
Perfect. Modern art or old masters?
Oh, for me personally, old masters. And I love pop art, so I know I'm contradicting myself, but there's just something about feeling like you're in a room with Rembrandt or, Van Eyck, or there's something about feeling like you're having a shared experience with someone from hundreds of years ago who was at the time oftentimes tortured, but was clearly genius. There's something about establishing a dialogue between yourself and that person. I don't know. I just, again, I'm addicted to it. I can't get over it. Every time I get that type of experience, I feel like I'm doing the right thing with my life.
Amazing. Most underrated artist in history?
Wow. Wow. You've stumped me. The most
I mean,
underrated.
it's not an easy question, I know.
Yeah. It's so interesting because the ones that pop to mind are ones that are already revered, but people just didn't understand the nuance of what they were doing, and they didn't understand why they were so important. I think about names that are really famous, like, for instance, Toulouse-Lautrec. right? Toulouse-Lautrec, this was a game-changing scenario for all time. I mean, not just the imagery, but the idea that he elevated the lithograph from a copyist tool to an art form. If you think about Andy Warhol and what he did for serigraphy, if you think about Rembrandt and what he did for etchings, and Dürer and what he did just printmaking, right? Like full stop, the entire genre. These people made art accessible at the time for more people than ever before, but over the long term, they made art accessible to millions of people, which would have never happened without the innovation that they did. So I guess, and you hear the printmaker coming out in me. I think that probably any of those artists, if you think about what they did in terms of printmaking and taking art out of the hands of the ultra elite, the ultra wealthy, the kings and queens and leaders of the day, the really the 0.1% of the 1% of the day, and making it available to the whole world so that people can own these things and enjoy them and pass them on to their children. I think those were the people who were the most underrated because they changed everything.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. One object, again, because I see you're obviously, as you said, you're in Alaska, so you're not in your office right now, but one object in your office that best represents you.
An object in my office that best represents you. Wow. I'm trying to think about what I have in my office that I would consider a representation of me. Um, hmm. I'll tell you what I don't have in my office because I think that's the best representation of me. I don't hang awards or certificates or diplomas or my various degrees. I don't hang any of those things in my office because I think that the most value I bring to our company and the value I bring to the art world in general has to do with what I've experienced and the coalition of people that I've built over, these couple of decades. I think that's what my value is. I think all the rest of that stuff is, I don't know, it's a reason to get invited to a party or something, or a reason to have a party, but I don't think any of that matters a hill of beans. I think that the relationships that you build in the art world or in whatever career you're in, those are the things that are most representative of your value. And so I think that's probably the best answer. And actually, I'm laughing a little bit because my wife tells me my office is a pigsty and I need to tweet it all out. So there may be something in there. Can I get back to you on this? I'm teasing.
Beautiful. It's a great summary. And again, thank you, John, and thank you, listeners, for joining the Echoes of Elegance by VINTQ. And until the next time, keep searching for the objects that speak to you because every piece has a story waiting to be heard.